not the American way. This week, I've solemnly and soberly chosen to use the powers that the founders provided and issue a check against what the Biden administration thinks are unfettered powers. It's something I don't take lightly. On Tuesday, I submitted articles of impeachment against the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Matthew Graves. Mr. Graves is derelict in his duty as the Chief Prosecutor for Washington, D.C. He is in a unique position of the top law enforcement officer for both federal and local crimes, but he's refusing to do his job. Under his watch, 67% of arrests have gone unprosecuted. Many of these are violent crimes where the victims are left wondering, where has justice gone? It's no wonder that he is ignoring these acts that destroy the lives of residents of our nation's capital, because he is solely focused on a 3-hour event that happened on January 6, 2021. He is devoting his entire office to maliciously prosecuting as many people as he possibly can, including nonviolent, peaceful protesters. Graves is refusing to do his job. He must be impeached. On Tuesday, I also submitted articles of impeachment against FBI Director Christopher Wray. Director Wray has turned the Federal Bureau of Investigation into the personal police force of Joe Biden and Attorney General Merrick Garland. It is wholly unacceptable for the FBI Director or any civil officer to use their power in a way that targets one political class and favors another. Wray has used Soviet-style tactics in his targeting of average Americans and placed threat tags on everyone from pro-life groups to traditional Catholics. He even sent armed agents to the home of President Donald Trump, who is also the current frontrunner in the Republican presidential election, in a politically motivated raid to influence an upcoming election, all while shielding the current Democrat president's vile son from a criminal probe. Wray is using his extremely powerful law enforcement role for political purposes. He must be impeached. Yesterday morning, I introduced articles of impeachment against Attorney General Merrick Garland. Since Merrick Garland took over as Attorney General, he has completely weaponized the Department of Justice to the point, under his control, it has become the Department of Injustice. The politicization of the DOJ has resulted in the persecution of the left's political enemies and a two-tier justice system. Garland is using the FBI as the personal police force for his boss, Joe Biden. He has launched investigations into everyone from parents who protest their local school boards to former and future President Donald J. Trump. Nothing short of election interference. His corruption knows no bounds. While Antifa and BLM terrorists have caused billions of dollars in property damage and taken lives, Garland instead persecutes Americans who engaged in legitimate political protests, people who were overwhelmingly nonviolent, many of them just walking through the Capitol. Garland's total politicization and perversion of the American justice system has only one remedy: impeachment. Yesterday, I also introduced articles of impeachment against Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Since assuming office, Secretary Mayorkas has aided and abetted the complete invasion of our country by deliberately flooding our nation with drugs, terrorists, and illegal aliens. Mayorkas has allowed approximately 6 million illegal border encounters and 1.4 million known gotaways. But how many more don't we even know about? He has intentionally diverted resources away from our borders, stopped construction of the border wall, and broke existing laws by allowing mass parole for illegal aliens. Mayorkas ended President Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, and we are back to the days of catching and releasing illegal aliens directly into the United States. Mayorkas stated under oath that we have operational control of our borders. He lied to the American people, he lied under oath, and he has blatantly violated his oath of office. Secretary Mayorkas must be impeached. It is with the highest amount of solemnity that I announce my intention to introduce articles of impeachment today on the head of this America at Last executive branch that has been working since January 20th, 2021 to systematically destroy this country. The President of the United States, Joseph Robinette Biden. Joe Biden has deliberately compromised our national security by refusing to enforce immigration laws and secure our border, allowed approximately 6 million illegals from over 170 countries to invade our country, deprived Border Patrol of the necessary resources and policies sufficient to protect our country. And his administration has willfully refused to maintain operational control as required by the law. He has allowed fentanyl, the #1 killer of Americans between the age of 18 and 45, to overwhelmingly flood into our country and kill around 300 Americans every single day. These aren't just Americans, these are people's family members. These are their sons, their daughters, their brothers, their sisters, their mothers, their fathers, their cousins, aunts, and uncles. These are American families. His administration has lost complete contact with approximately 85,000 unaccompanied illegal alien children, and his policies have forced tens of thousands of illegal children into slave labor. Where are these kids? No one even knows. It's horrible. Joe Biden has reinstated catastrophic and disastrous catch and release policies which have allowed illegals to flood our country and our communities. He ended Remain in Mexico and reinstated catch and release. Under Biden's command, the Secretary of Homeland Security has illegally granted mass parole to aliens when U.S. federal law only permits parole to be granted on a specific case-by-case basis. He endangered the lives of Americans by allowing illegal aliens who had tested positive for COVID-19 to enter our country and infect American citizens, yet while enforcing strict COVID policies on American citizens. His policies, directives, and statements surrounding the southern border have violated our laws and destroyed our country. Biden has blatantly violated his constitutional duty, and he is a direct threat to our national security. Therefore, Joseph Robinette Biden is unfit to serve as the President of the United States and must be impeached. Out in the real world, where American taxpayers live, employees are fired when they are corrupt or aren't adequately serving their employer or purposely destroying a company. In this case, the employer is the American people because they pay the salaries of everyone in the federal government. The Constitution outlines a very simple process to fire the corrupt officials serving in the federal government: impeachment. Matthew Graves, Christopher Wray, Merrick Garland, Alejandro Mayorkas, and Joe Biden are all corrupt and unfit to hold office, and they all must be impeached. This concludes impeachment week. And now I can take questions. Yes.
Thank you, Congressman. Who do you see in this list of, your targets to see? Who do you think would be the most viable in terms of getting the whole conference behind? I know there's some talk about Mayorkas, but who do you see as kind of the top target there?
I think Mayorkas is definitely the easiest one to impeach on my list. But I would argue that Christopher Wray would be second. Today there's a weaponization of government committee going on this morning where there are whistleblowers testifying, FBI whistleblowers testifying, who had their security clearances taken away, even though they have whistleblower status. Not only is Christopher Ray weaponizing the FBI against American citizens, he's also weaponizing it against actual employees of the FBI. Employees that are doing their job and are coming forward bravely to try to tell the truth about the things that are happening within the FBI. That is extremely concerning about what's happening. Also, it was just announced in the news sometime this week that the FBI, and I believe it's Christopher Ray himself, is asking a judge to keep a laptop by a DNC staffer. What was that guy's name? Trying to recall his name. Seth Rich. They're trying to hold that from the public for 66 years. Like, what is there to hide? These are the kinds of things that shouldn't happen. Christopher Ray does his job as the FBI director, where he puts his party, the Democrat Party, above the country. And that's wrong. It should always be the country above any party. It should be the country first. And he swore an oath for that purpose to the country, not to any political party. And that is why he must be impeached. So I think there's a very strong case there for Christopher Ray. We can move those same arguments for Merrick Garland in the weaponization of government. I tell you what, though, Matthew Graves, there's a strong case for him as well. He's not as well known as these others, and many of the people in our conference probably are just learning about him. But DC residents go through what they go through every single day. I mean, you all live and work here. The crime is horrific. Mayor Bowser herself, Chief Conte, they are wanting these people that Chief Conte and the Metro DC police are working hard to arrest. They want them in jail. And when they testified this week in the Oversight Committee, I asked them directly, do you want these criminals put in jail? Chief Conte said yes. He wants them to stay in jail. Mayor Bowser said yes. She wants them to serve out their time in prison before they're released. But Matthew Graves, who is the U.S. attorney that has the capability to prosecute local crime, is not putting anybody in jail. He's letting 67% of these cases go completely unprosecuted. And that affects people in our nation's capital, just regular innocent people that live and work here. And so I think as our conference learns more and more on this, they'll understand it. But here's what's more important. You're asking who will the conference move to impeach? The reason why I'm introducing these articles is because I would say about 75% of the base of Republican voters, and then I would argue even more Americans, maybe that are not necessarily Republicans, they could be independents, and some of them could be Democrats, agree with impeachment. Because there's never any consequences for anyone in the federal government when regular American citizens face consequences all the time. And I'm introducing these articles because this is what people are demanding. They're demanding it and asking for it. And after talking to legal experts and analyzing the situation, it is the right thing to do. And it is a rare thing to do, but it is the right thing to do. Because we're living in extraordinary times. The way our country is right now, it shouldn't be this way. And we have a duty. As an elected office holder, as a representative, I have a duty. But so does other elected office holders. And I'll argue even more. Employees in the federal government have a duty to the American people. We shouldn't be in the debt we're in. Our borders should not be wide open. We shouldn't have lost tens of thousands of children. They shouldn't be working in slavery in places that we don't even know, but even the New York Times wrote up a big piece about that. These things should not be happening. So we have a duty to impeach people. And thankfully our founding fathers gave us that right. Yeah.
So on your intention to introduce articles of impeachment against Joe Biden, how many articles would be in this, and what would be the specific charges in each of the articles? And then secondly, on top of that, have you discussed this with Republican leadership in the chamber?
Yes, I have. Of course, I have great respect for Republican leadership, and I want to work with my colleagues in the conference. But more importantly, I would like to work with every single member of Congress. There's 435 of us. You can look at us like a board of executives. That's how I view this government, is it should be operating more like a company. We have 435 representatives. We should operate like a board of executives, making good decisions for the country, which we should view the country as our customers, the American people. That's who we work for. So yes, I have talked with them. I'll be introducing, this is just the first set of articles of impeachments I'm introducing on Joe Biden, and this one has to do with his absolute failure, purposeful failure to protect the states. As the President of the United States, he swears an oath of office. And part of that oath of office means that he has to defend the states. He is not defending the safety and the security of all 50 states in our country. The fact that so many illegals are entering all these states and being at the taxpayer's expense, flown on airplanes, driven on buses all over the country to go to any community all over America, where every single town has become a border town, and every single state has become a border state. That is why he must be impeached. But allowing the death of over 300 Americans every single day is like allowing people to be murdered every single day. It's just allowing it to happen, and allowing murder, allowing crimes to be committed against American citizens is an absolute failure of the President of the United States. But I'll go further. I'm very invested into the investigations that we're doing on the Oversight Committee. These investigations are serious. And what we are reading in SARS reports, and what we are seeing and studying in bank records, and we have more coming. We are only partly into this investigation. It's only been a couple of months. What we are finding out about not only Hunter Biden, which was known from the Biden laptop, from his laptop, but denied and lied about by 51 people, members of the intelligence community, who I'll tell you right now, those 51 should have their security clearances stripped from them. And I'll argue further that some of them should go to jail for what they did and how they abused their authority on the television, to lying to all of you and lying to the American people. But the fact that that happened to cover up, and I'll go with this. These people abuse their power and their authority because they put party over country. It's party over country for them. It's not the country first. And they have done a major cover up. But what we've uncovered in the Oversight Committee is shocking. It's shocking. And I'll tell you what, I don't think it just goes to the Bidens alone. I guarantee you there are many others in Washington that are doing the very same thing, getting millions of dollars into fake LLCs and paying themselves or their family or who knows out of these LLCs. That's what the Bidens have been doing. And very soon, once we get through this investigation, I think we will have very credible articles of impeachment on that issue as well.
All right, so just to clarify, the first round is related to the states and immigration. And how many articles will there be exactly?
The first round is related to the national security crisis pertaining to how the president has totally wiped out strong border security measures that were in place before he took office, and he took them away when he became president. And he has allowed the invasion all over the United States. This is just the first set of articles of impeachment. Yes, ma'am.
Can you talk about your clash with Congressman Bowman last night? Why was there such frustration, and why did you feel the need to defend Congressman Santos when they were telling him to resign?
Well, first off, I never defended George Santos. I was not defending George Santos. What I was saying to the press there is you should be at the White House asking these same questions. I never defended George Santos. No one should report that. That would be a lie. What concerns me about Jamal Bowman is he has a history of aggression, not just towards others, but towards me in particular, and I'm very concerned about it. When I went to New York City to use my First Amendment right and protest the unconstitutional and unlawful arrest of President Trump another person abusing their power, weaponization of government, DA Alvin Bragg. Jamal Bowman led a mob down there in front of that courthouse, and my life was in danger. I had to have so much security. There was not enough. I was swarmed. It's all on video. Everyone can see this. But I will tell you what's on video is Jamal Bowman shouting at the top of his lungs, cursing, calling me a horrible, calling me a white supremacist, which I take great offense to. That is like calling a person of color the N-word, which should never happen. Calling me a white supremacist is equal to that, and that is wrong. Jamal Bowman was down there cursing at me, telling me to get the F out of there, and he was leading the mob right outside the vehicle I was sitting in. We have this all on video. And then on the Capitol steps yesterday, he was the one that approached me. Even CNN reported that. Yelling, shouting, raising his voice. He has aggressive, his physical mannerisms are aggressive. And he just recently shoved Thomas Massey just outside the House chamber. I think there's a lot of concern about Jamal Bowman. So, and I am concerned about it. I feel threatened by him. He not only led a mob there, but his boisterous lies. And I'll tell you another thing he said outside there. He was saying, save your party. I kept telling him, no, save the country. It's not about political parties. We shouldn't care about political parties. We should care about the country, because no matter what our political beliefs are, Jamal Bowman, I don't know what his political beliefs are. I know what mine are, but we both swore an oath to serve the country here in Congress as representatives. So I am very concerned about Jamal Bowman, and he's someone that people should watch. Yes, ma'am.
A procedural question. My understanding is you could be offering your resolutions on the House floor as a question of the privilege of the House, which would let you get a vote, I think, within a couple of days. At some point, are you interested in going down that path to force a vote?
Well, I'll be talking with as I'm gathering co-sponsors, I'd like to work on that first, and I'd also like to give the American people a chance to show their support for these articles of impeachment before I use a procedural rule like that. Yeah, thank you. Yes, sir.
Ma'am, I was wondering, impeachment is kind of a high bar. Is there any thought to using the appropriations process or maybe the Holman rule instead to target pensions or salaries of some of these individuals? Wouldn't that be easier to accomplish?
Well, and that will be accomplished. We're already looking to use the Holman rule in many areas, and we're looking at using appropriations for a way to rein in this completely out of control weaponized government that is being that is abusing the American people. So yes, that's already a process that's happening. But I believe that yes, this is an extraordinary measure, but we're living in extraordinary times. And this is a time where things are so out of control. I mean, imagine if this continues and goes further. Imagine if this unchecked power is allowed to continue. What will it be in just a matter of a few years? What will it be, and what will they be doing? We've never seen this before in our American history. But more importantly, this is what the people are demanding. And I'm a representative of the people. I represent my district. They're demanding this. But people all over the country are demanding this. They want people impeached, because the same standard that applies to the people in their daily lives should apply to people that are paid by their hard-earned tax dollars. And so I'll just let you know that, yeah, we're going to go both ways. We'll go the Holman rule, we'll go the appropriations route, but I would also like to go the impeachment route.
What did leadership say when you presented this, and have you talked to the chairs of Oversight Committee, Weaponization Committee? Does this step on what they're trying to do?
No, it doesn't step on anyone. And again, I went out of complete respect for leadership, but also respect for my colleagues, and explained the reasons why I was doing this. Again, because I represent the people, and this is what the people want to see happen. And they didn't tell me not to do it. They just asked me questions about the method, the legality, and things pertaining to the Constitution, which I thought they had very good questions. And it's good to have that type of feedback and conversation, especially when introducing articles of impeachment.
Oh, and have you run any of this by former President Trump?
Well, I didn't ask him permission, no.
Of course not.
Yeah, no.
But
yeah.
have you run it by him?
No, I didn't
No.
run it by him. No. Anybody else? Good. All right. Well, this concludes. And again, thank you for coming out this morning, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
When does impeachment of Biden start? Well, if it was up to your Congresswoman, we would be doing that right away.
That's right.
Actually, we'd already be doing it. Something fun to watch, you'll be interested in this, is I'm on the Oversight Committee, and we have subpoenaed the Biden family bank records. Without saying too much, because I certainly don't want to give it away right here at this town hall, you know, when you follow the money, you pretty much find where the problems are.
That's right.
And that's going to be the committee hearings to watch. And I believe it will lead to what should already be happening, is impeaching Joe Biden.
Right.
Would you be open to introducing a bill to expand the staff of the Department of Veterans Affairs and let veterans get mental health services faster? I would be for help doing anything to help veterans get help faster. Probably the most heartbreaking stories I hear is when one of our great veterans commits suicide because they couldn't get the help they needed from the VA. That just shouldn't happen. I'll tell you another horrible story I don't like is how 13 of our soldiers were murdered and died over in the withdrawal of Afghanistan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to provide a report to the United States House of Representatives that Americans support impeachment. Last week, I introduced articles of impeachment against 5 people who have abused the power of their positions and provided corruption and disservice to the American people. I introduced articles of impeachment against U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves at the Department of Justice. Matthew Graves refuses to prosecute 67% of the crimes in Washington, D.C., and abuses his office in a political pursuit who he deems political enemies, while persecuting people for January 6th, people who just walked through the Capitol. Matthew Graves must be impeached. He should prosecute criminals in Washington, D.C. that commit all kinds of crimes every single day, not care about one day where people have already been arrested and are rotting in jail. Last week, I introduced articles of impeachment against FBI Director Christopher Wray. By turning the FBI into Joe Biden and Merrick Garland's personal police force, Chris Wray has made himself a lackey of the regime. Under Wray's watch, the FBI has intimidated, harassed, and trapped American citizens that have been deemed enemies of the Biden regime. FBI even raided Mar-a-Lago on August 8th of 2022 in an unconstitutional raid of former president's home. FBI whistleblower Garrett O'Boyle told congressional investigators that the FBI created a terrorist threat tag following the Dobbs Supreme Court decision in 2022. O'Boyle confirmed that the purpose of the tag was to target pro-life individuals, and now Wray has weaponized the FBI against his own agents. These brave FBI whistleblowers have been stripped of their salaries and their security clearances simply for coming forward and bravely telling the truth. FBI Director Christopher Wray must be impeached. I introduced articles of impeachment against Attorney General Merrick Garland. Since Merrick Garland took over as Attorney General in March of 2021, he has completely weaponized the Department of Justice. The politicization of the Department of Justice has resulted in the persecution of the left's political enemies and a real two-tier justice system in America. Garland has used the FBI as a personal police force for his boss, Joe Biden. The Department of Justice's persecution of Joe Biden's primary political adversary, Donald J. Trump, is anti-democratic. Raiding the former president's home for legally declassifying documents is a transparent violation of justice. Persecuting a declared candidate for president of the United States is nothing short of election interference. But not only that, from investigating parents who protest their local school boards to going after pro-life activists and Catholics, Merrick Garland must be impeached. What I want to tell the House of Representatives today is a Rasmussen poll was released just last week that 53% of voters in America, Republicans, Independents, and Democrats, support the impeachment of Joe Biden for high crimes and misdemeanors. I introduced articles of impeachment on Joe Biden last week because of the national security crisis at our border. I also introduced articles of impeachment against Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas for failing to do his duties to secure America's border. But he's only doing the bidding of his boss, Joe Biden. At 5 p.m. yesterday, I released a survey simply on my social media asking, do you support impeachment? 8,600 people responded, and that was just from 5 p.m. last night. 77% said yes, they support impeachment. Only 23% oppose. And if anyone's read the comments on my Twitter account, you know for sure it's not just Republicans that follow me. Joe Biden has deliberately compromised our national security by refusing to enforce immigration laws and secure our border. He has allowed nearly 6 million illegals from over 170 countries to invade our country. He has caused approximately 1,700% increase in border encounters in just one sector of our northern border. Under his reign, there have been approximately 1.4 million known gotaways who have evaded U.S. authorities. He has allowed fentanyl, the #1 killer of Americans between ages of 18 and 45, to overwhelmingly flood into our country and kill over 300 Americans every single day. Joe Biden should be impeached. In my district alone, we have had an increase of 350% of fentanyl murders.
Gentlewoman's time has expired.
Thank you. Joe Biden must be impeached. I yield.
Members are reminded to refrain from engaging in personalities towards the president.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On January 21st, 2021, I introduced articles of impeachment against Joe Biden. And less than 2 weeks later, I was kicked off all of my committees by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. They said it was for Facebook comments and replies and likes, but we all know the truth. It was because my articles of impeachment on Joe Biden were correct. He was indeed abusing his power as Vice President of the United States. Now we have more information to prove that not only was I right then, but it was more damning than we already knew. But I'd like to roll back. President Trump was wrongfully impeached twice. And both of these impeachments must be expunged by the House of Representatives. But what I'd like to talk about is the difference in the type of information we have. The Democrats brought out the Steele dossier. The Steele dossier was written as a Democrat political opposition research paper. The information was written by a contractor and it was fed to the FBI with no transparency on subsources. The contractor had no primary source information, and the FBI operationalized uncorroborated claims to secure FISA warrant on political campaign official of opposing political party. Information was later debunked by Congress, the Inspector General, and Special Counsel investigations. But the mainstream media won Pulitzer Prizes on the bogus Russia narrative. And then they led the witch hunt, leading to impeaching President Trump over a phone call with the president of Ukraine. But let me tell the House what type of information we actually have. We have an FBI form called an FD 1023 form, and here's the difference for the public listening. On the 1023 form, the information originated from an FBI informant who'd been relied upon for many years and was considered the FBI's top informant. It was also paid $200,000 for multiple years by the FBI. Information was written by the FBI agent in official FBI form and relied on no additional subsources. The FBI informant was a direct eye and ear witness to the information provided. The FBI apparently took no action to further the investigative claim. The FBI has refused to describe any investigative steps to assess the investigative information. Therefore, it has not been debunked, despite White House's lies and false claims. The mainstream media has largely ignored the story or parroted the White House false claim. What does the FD 1023 form tell you? I'll tell you exactly what it says, because not only have I read it, I also have it in my possession right here. And this is a form that the entire American people, the entire public should have because it's unclassified. But Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, forced us to read it in a skiff and would not hand it over to us. Thankfully, Senator Chuck Grassley released this form because it was provided to him by a brave whistleblower. This form entails the damning information that then Vice President Joe Biden took a $5 million bribe from the oligarch that owns Burisma. Not only did Joe Biden take a $5 million bribe, so did Hunter Biden. And what did Joe Biden deliver as Vice President of the United States? He got Viktor Shokin, the Ukrainian prosecutor general, fired from his job. How did Joe Biden, Vice President, get that done? He threatened to withhold $1 billion of U.S. aid to Ukraine until Viktor Shokin was fired. And you want to know what? He was fired. In 2016, Joe Biden himself bragged to the Foreign Council and told them that he got him fired. He bragged about it, it's on video. But that's not all they've done. Hunter Biden has also gotten his father on the phone over 24 times to talk with his business partners and talk with them about the business that they are doing. And even more so, in our possession, through our investigations on our Republican-led committees, we also have a WhatsApp chat that says, from Hunter Biden, I am sitting here with my father, and we would like to understand why the commitment made has not been fulfilled. Who's his father? Joe Biden. Tell the director that I would like to resolve this now before it gets out of hand, and now means tonight. And it continues on. What I'm demanding is that the Republican-led House of Representatives move forward on an impeachment inquiry on Joe Biden, because this type of corruption should never be allowed to stand. We must expunge President Trump's wrongful impeachments, and we must impeach Joe Biden. Thank you so much, and I cannot tell you how excited I am about this town hall because it's right here in Rome, Georgia. So that means I only have to go a few minutes down the road to go back home and sleep in my own bed tonight. So praise God for that. And I just want to say how thankful I am. I know I have a lot of frustrations, as I'm sure you do, about what should be happening in Washington right now. But I'm very grateful that we've had this time of recess where members of Congress like myself go back home to our districts and get reconnected with people and businesses and the things that truly matter, especially the voters that sent us to Washington to work for them. And while I have always stayed focused on the values that we all share and that you want me to represent for you in Washington, D.C., too many of my colleagues forget when they get to Washington why people sent them there. So I am hoping and praying that they're having a good recess at home, because we have a lot of work to do when we get back to Washington. Now, all of you, do you have your handout? Okay, great. I wanted for you to be sure to have this handout, and before I get started talking about it, I want to go ahead and talk about our constituent services for a few minutes.
back in the back there, like they're eating popcorn and having drinks. Just kidding. It's Tracy, Valerie, I think Kayla's back there, Avery. These are the wonderful ladies that do the constituent services work for us here at home. And so if you have any issues, if you have a passport issue, an issue with the IRS, taxes, veteran services, anything that we can help you with, please go back there and see Tracy, Valerie, Avery, Kayla. They are fantastic, and I'm very proud of them. I'd also like to brag on them a little bit and brag on Travis Loudermilk here, my district director, and Gavin Thompson as well, my field rep. Our staff here in the 14th District of Georgia opens and closes some of the highest amount of constituent services cases. And so that's something that we're really proud of, because that's what customer service means. It means that we're working for the people and doing exactly what we should be doing. So thank you so much, team. You guys are fantastic, and don't forget, if you need help, they're right back there. Okay, so I wanted to give you all a handout because it's hard to keep up with a speech sometime and remember all the things I tell you. But if you walk through this handout, and you can do this over tonight or keep it, take it with you. You can make copies of it, share it with your friends. But it'll let you know actual successes that we have had in the majority in Washington in the House of Representatives. It lists in here the bills that I have introduced and what they're about and their bill numbers. You can look them up. It also talks about important things that we're trying to accomplish. Bills that I am particularly proud of. One of them is expunging President Trump's impeachment. He was wrongfully impeached. And that's something I hope we can get passed. Another bill you've heard me talk about, you guys have been hearing me talk about this before I went to Congress. You've heard me talk about it since I got there in 2021, is impeaching Joe Biden. Yes. I first introduced articles of impeachment on Joe Biden on his first day in office, because I already knew, and all of you already knew, and most of the country, many regular Americans, knew the crimes that he was engaged in, just totally abusing his power of office and the corrupt business deals he's been involved in. I'm going to talk more about those a little bit later. But I want you to know I'm committed to that, very committed to impeachment of Joe Biden. We should never have a criminal in the White House.
So you just heard this news that the Speaker announcing moving forward with an impeachment inquiry, but you had called for a vote to open up an impeachment inquiry. It sounds like they're not going to do one. Would that be a mistake if there's not a vote?
Well, Nancy Pelosi set the precedents, and so this is absolutely a formal way to introduce it by announcing an impeachment inquiry by the Speaker of the House. I think this is a warning to Democrats to be careful of the precedents you set, because now we too can do the same thing. But I'm very excited this has been announced. I think this shows bold and strong leadership by our Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, and this investigation needs to happen.
You said that you wouldn't support government funding bill if there's not a vote to actually formally open up an impeachment inquiry. Is that still your position, and why?
No, an impeachment inquiry has been opened, so I can go forward now. I had said I wouldn't fund a government until we open an impeachment inquiry. Now one has been officially opened by the Speaker of the House, and I'm very excited to see it happen. I think Americans deserve truth, they deserve transparency, and we need this investigation to go as long as it needs to uncover all the corruption that has been involved in covering up Joe Biden's crimes.
But you're not insistent on a vote per se. There doesn't have to be a vote. Is that your view?
I'm only insistent on following the House rules, and a precedence has been set, and so the impeachment inquiry is now open.
What do you say to some of the members of your own conference in some of those districts, like swing districts, who are concerned about going down this route, concerned about not proving that Joe Biden took official action to aid his son, or politically speaking, that it could backfire on them in their swing districts?
I think they have nothing to worry about. Uncovering corruption at the highest level, Vice President and President of the United States, is our job. And this isn't political at all. This is about uprooting those that have not only covered up Joe Biden's crimes, but Joe Biden himself. And we've done months and months of work on the Oversight Committee, I think 8 months now. And we have uncovered more information, wire transfers, bank statements, SARS reports showing that the Biden family has benefited by approximately $20 million and counting by abusing and basically selling Joe Biden's seat of power.
Congressman Ken Buck says you guys have not proven your case yet.
I think Congressman Ken Buck is more interested in working for your network than he is for the district that elected him.
You don't think that he knows what he's talking about?
I think he is actually playing party politics. He's either looking for Joe Biden to appoint him to a position, maybe the open Republican FTC seat, or he's looking to be a CNN commentator. He's not upholding the Constitution that he swore to protect, because impeachment is very much a part of the Constitution.
Do you think he deserves to be reelected?
I think that's up to his district, but I've heard rumblings coming out of that district.
You support a primary challenger to him?
I support his district in making sure they send a representative to Congress that actually believes in the Constitution, no matter how much they brag about their law degree.
So you met with the Speaker yesterday about this. What did he indicate about his plans on moving forward in terms of the timing and getting this done and actually bringing forward any sort of article of impeachment?
The Speaker has been clear for weeks and weeks now, on interview after interview, that an impeachment inquiry is the right thing to do, that it's not political at all. And this is very simple. It's opening up an investigation that gives us the full power of the House to look further, investigate further, and have more power behind our subpoenas. It doesn't endanger any Republican member. It doesn't endanger any Democrat member. It's simply the right thing to do for the House of Representatives.
What is the article of impeachment that you would actually be charging? What is the charge against Joe Biden that House Republicans will pursue here?
I think that's a good question, because it's important for viewers and the American people to understand is there have not been any charges made. There are no articles of impeachment written in this impeachment inquiry. It's simply opening up a very big investigation using the power of the committees that Speaker McCarthy named, Ways and Means, Judiciary, and Oversight, led by our chairman, and we will be investigating where the corruption is. What's important to me is that it's not only an investigation into Joe Biden and how he abused his power, holding some of the top, highest, most powerful seats in our land, but I'm more interested in investigating the web of people, the gigantic amount of people in conspiracy that covered up those crimes. And I think that's what we truly need to show to the American people.
Do you want the Speaker in the House to conclude this investigation by the end of the year?
No, I'm interested in going as long as it takes, because like I said, I want a very long, detailed list of names. We can already start with 51 intelligence community members that signed their name to a lie about Hunter Biden's laptop. That's a good place to start. We also know many others that have been brought forth by whistleblowers. David Weiss would be one of them, but I think we can uncover a lot more names.
Did the Speaker indicate a time frame for you at all when you talked to him yesterday?
We have no time frame, and I'm committed to as long as it takes.
So just on government funding, so you obviously are fully opposed to moving on Ukraine aid at the end of the month. Did the Speaker indicate to you how he plans to address that issue, whether to tie Ukraine aid to government spending?
I've been clear with Speaker McCarthy. I've been clear with my entire conference. I've been clear with my district and the American people. I will not ever fund any money towards a war in Ukraine. It's absolutely the wrong thing to do for our country. We should not be fighting a nuclear-armed nation, Russia. We should be fighting the Mexican criminal cartels that are killing 300 Americans every single day and responsible for $1 billion industry of human trafficking and drug trafficking.
And if McCarthy does move forward with Ukraine aid, what would that mean for his speakership?
What it means for me is a no vote. I'm clear on that. I don't think that.
What about him? Would he lose? I mean, would you support ousting him from the Speaker? Is that how much, or no? Is that your bar?
No, I'm not part of the Burn It All Down caucus. I'm interested in saving our country, and I support Speaker McCarthy. I support what he just did. That was strong leadership. I also spoke to him about passing the aid money for hurting Americans that are suffering, like the ones in Lahaina and Hawaii, people in Florida, especially the people in East Palestine. They've been completely ignored. That's the funding I support. I do support funding the government responsibly. That means no money for COVID insanity, mask mandates, more vaccines. COVID is over and Joe Biden signed a resolution stating it. No money for Ukraine and no money for a weaponized government where the Department of Justice is abusing its power, arresting Joe Biden's top political opponents. This has got to end, and that's the only type of funding I support.
If Matt Gaetz may come to the floor in a matter of moments, and we'll see what he does, but there's some talk about introducing a vacating the chair resolution. What's your message to folks who are trying to oust him and try to actually force that vote on the floor?
I'm going to say that's going to fail, and I don't support it. And Matt Gaetz is a dear friend of mine. He's one of my top allies, and I'll always call him a friend. He and I are aligned on most issues, but I'm not aligned with a motion to vacate the chair, and I'm not aligned for this. What I'm for is Republicans coming together and accomplishing an agenda that serves Americans and Americans first.
Some of the members of your own conference in some of those districts, like swing districts, who are concerned about going down this route, concerned about not proving that Joe Biden took official action to aid his son, or politically speaking, that it could backfire on them in their swing districts.
I think they have nothing to worry about. Uncovering corruption at the highest level, Vice President and President of the United States, is our job. And this isn't political at all. This is about uprooting those that have not only covered up Joe Biden's crimes, but Joe Biden himself. And we've done months and months of work on the Oversight Committee, I think 8 months now. And we have uncovered more information, wire transfers, bank statements, SARS reports showing that the Biden family has benefited by approximately $20 million and counting by abusing and basically selling Joe Biden's seat of power.
Congressman Ken Buck says you guys have not proven your case yet.
I think Congressman Ken Buck is more interested in working for your network than he is for the district that elected him.
You don't think that he knows what he's talking about?
I think he is actually playing party politics. He's either looking for Joe Biden to appoint him to a position, maybe the open Republican FTC seat, or he's looking to be a CNN commentator. He's not upholding the Constitution that he swore to protect, because impeachment is very much a part of the Constitution.
Do you think he deserves to be reelected?
I think that's up to his district, but I've heard rumblings coming out of that district.
You support a primary challenger to him?
I support his district in making sure they send a representative to Congress that actually believes in the Constitution, no matter how much they brag about their law degree.
So you met with the Speaker yesterday. So you just heard this news that the Speaker announcing moving forward with an impeachment inquiry, but you had called for a vote to open up an impeachment inquiry. It sounds like they're not going to do one. Would that be a mistake if there's not a vote?
Well, Nancy Pelosi set the precedents, and so this is absolutely a formal way to introduce it by announcing an impeachment inquiry by the Speaker of the House. I think this is a warning to Democrats to be careful of the precedents you set, because now we too can do the same thing. But I'm very excited this has been announced. I think this shows bold and strong leadership by our Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, and this investigation needs to happen.
But you said that you wouldn't support government funding bill if there's not a vote to actually formally open up an impeachment inquiry. Is that still your position, and why?
No, an impeachment inquiry has been opened, so I can go forward now. I had said I wouldn't fund a government until we open an impeachment inquiry. Now one has been officially opened by the Speaker of the House, and I'm very excited to see it happen. I think Americans deserve truth, they deserve transparency, and we need this investigation to go as long as it needs to uncover all the corruption that has been involved in covering up Joe Biden's crimes.
But you're not insistent on a vote per se. There doesn't have to be a vote. Is that your view?
I'm only insistent on following the House rules, and a precedence has been set, and so the impeachment inquiry is now open.
What do you say to some of the...
Chair now recognizes Ms. Greene from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On July 25th, 2023, Chairman Comer and I sent the Department of Justice a letter requesting information related to victims of Hunter Biden, specifically women he sexually exploited and then claimed as deductions on his taxes through his law firm. but he never paid those taxes. Not surprisingly, the Department of Justice did not respond. After the DOJ's sweetheart Hunter Biden deal fell apart, by the way, led by the special counsel David Weiss, on September 8th, 2023, Chairman Comer and I again sent a letter to the same DOJ officials asking about victims' rights issues related to Hunter Biden's sexual exploitations. DOJ once again failed to respond. Well, yesterday I found out why they don't want to talk with us. In a new email just released, by the way, from October 2020, could you please display the email? The Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office, DOJ, Tax, FBI, and IRS described evidence they have related to Mann Act violations. By the way, the subject of the email says Mann Act. First, the title, Mann Act. Then, it's clear there are charges on the table while the Department of Justice is in hiding from meeting with me. The Department of Justice and IRS email and David Weiss's Delaware U.S. Attorney's Office, the email states there are communications with trafficker number 1 and trafficker number 2, and that Hunter Biden had escorts who traveled across state lines. These women are victims, and the Department of Justice is refusing to protect their rights. Not only that, David Weiss, the now special counsel in charge of supposedly investigating Hunter Biden, has been clearly covering up Hunter Biden's crimes since before the 2020 election, which is undoubtedly election interference. David Weiss is complicit and must be removed from the special counsel. We also have more information we subpoenaed. Let me give you an even better example based on an interview with one of Hunter Biden's victims with law enforcement. It says here that the victim, Hunter Biden's victim, stated that Biden told her that his father was the vice president and asked to Google search his name. Hunter Biden's victim stated she told Biden she was not interested in Google searching his name and just wanted to be paid. Hunter Biden's victim stated that Biden then showed her a picture of his father with President Barack Obama. Don't forget his father was vice president then. Hunter Biden's victim stated after she was shown the aforementioned picture, who was the vice president of the United States with the president of the United States, Barack Obama, she became afraid. After Hunter Biden's victim left the location, she arrived back at her apartment and told her friend, who she was just with, Hunter Biden's victim stated that her friend told her, "You have no idea who you're dealing with." These women were terrified, terrified. He used his father, Hunter Biden used his father, the vice president of the United States, to threaten his victim, who he had just trafficked for sex. And the Department of Justice refuses to speak to me? Hunter Biden needs to be held accountable for his sexual exploitation of women. And we've shown more evidence. We've shown evidence. This is what it looks like. This is what Mann Act violations look like.
Mr. Chairman,
I reclaim my time.
I'd like to challenge the use of this
Hunter
exhibit
Biden
under
should
Clause
be
6
held
of Rule
accountable.
17.
It is sad that my Democrat
Point of order.
colleagues
Point of order.
pretend to care about women's rights while allowing Hunter Biden to exploit women. This is a shame. But let's talk about...
Chairman, there's a parliamentary challenge before us.
The point of
Mr.
order.
Chairman, point of order.
Who's the point? And we'll stop the clock for you, Ms. Greene.
Mr. Chairman, our colleague from Georgia has introduced before pornographic exhibits and displayed things that are really not suitable for children who might be watching. And
bathing suit's not suitable, Mr. Raskin?
Well, I'm saying I would like the member to be instructed to not introduce any pornography today, at least without running it through the chair
bathing
first.
suit is not pornography,
Well, we
Mr.
can't
Raskin.
see it from down there, so you didn't make it available to the minority before you started.
Seen it before. It's
Okay.
on the internet. It's everywhere.
You are submitting a naked woman's body.
This is a bathing suit. This is a bathing suit.
And it has not been clear before this committee.
Glasses on. Do you wear them or not? It's a
I have
bathing
contacts in.
suit.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right. Chair, ask Ms. Greene to proceed.
Now let's talk about more evidence the Democrats have denied that's turned out to be true. We all know Joe Biden is the big guy. And we confirmed that Hunter Biden was lobbying his father. Here's another example that was just released yesterday. This is from a timeline from one of the IRS whistleblowers and quotes an email between Vuk Jeremic, a Serbian politician, and Hunter Biden. Did you have a chance to talk with the big man? He's receiving my prime minister on Wednesday. Please let me know if you think that what we discussed back in D.C. can be mentioned in the meeting. My domestic strategy, how I proceed in dealing with my government, very much depends on whether it happens or not. This is a conversation between Hunter Biden and Vuk Jeremic. This is called influence peddling. This is how Hunter Biden was selling his father's political power and influence. And this is a perfect example. This is evidence right here. I'd like to remind everyone that this is the beginning of the impeachment inquiry, where we're casting a wide net and finding every single person, whether it's last administration, the administration before that, and whether it's the current administration, that has covered up the crimes of the Biden family. And we will continue pulling more evidence forward.
We're 54 seconds over, Mr. Chairman.
And I'll let Mr. Goldman go over 30 seconds. So we owe you 20 seconds to Mr. Moskowitz. It's your lucky day.
Recognition.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Clause 2A1 of Rule 9, I seek recognition to give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is as follows. Impeaching Alejandro Nicholas Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security, for high crimes and misdemeanors. Resolved that Alejandro Nicholas Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security, is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors, and that the following articles of impeachment be exhibited to the United States Senate. Articles of impeachment exhibited by the House of Representatives of the United States of America in the name of itself and of the people of the United States of America against Alejandro Nicholas Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security, in maintenance and support of its impeachment against him for high crimes and misdemeanors. Rather than adhering to an oath he took to defend and secure our country and uphold the Constitution when he was sworn in as Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Nicholas Mayorkas has engaged in a pattern of conduct that is incompatible with the laws of the United States as follows. Article 2 of the Constitution requires that the executive branch, which today includes the Secretary of Homeland Security, ensures the laws passed by Congress and signed into law by the President are faithfully executed. The Secure Fence Act of 2006, Public Law 109 through 367, requires that the Secretary of Homeland Security maintain operational control over the entire international land and maritime borders of the United States. In his willful admittance of border crossers, terrorists, human traffickers, drugs, and other contraband, Alejandro Nicholas Mayorkas has failed to maintain operational control of the border, thereby violating the Secure Fence Act of 2006. The guarantee clause set forth in Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution dictates, the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion. And on application of this legislature or of the executive, when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence. The guarantee clause clearly dictates that the federal government has a constitutional duty and obligation to protect each of the states from invasion. Mr. Speaker, could you call the House to order, please?
The House will be in order. Members are advised to take their conversations off the floor. The gentleman will continue.
As Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas has violated his oath to uphold this constitutional duty by allowing the invasion of approximately 10 million illegals across our borders. The ongoing invasion at our southern border is a direct national security threat against the states and against the citizens therein. Secretary Mayorkas has willfully abandoned his duty to secure the border and protect states against invasion, thereby violating Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. To wit, since Mayorkas has headed the Department of Homeland Security, there have been approximately 10 million illegal border crossers who have invaded our country at our border. This is broken down between 8 million encounters and approximately 1,800 known gotaways who have evaded United States authorities and are roaming the interior of the United States. At least 280 people on terrorist watch lists caught while attempting to cross the border between ports of entry. Approximately 400,000 unaccompanied illegal children encountered at the southern border, with at least 85,000 of these children having gone missing. At least 1,424 deaths of illegals at the southern border. Approximately 73,000 special interest aliens arrested at our border, which are aliens from a nation that promotes terrorist activity, harbors terrorists, or poses a security threat to the United States. This is the number arrested at the border, not counting, however, many of the 1,800,000 known gotaways are special interest aliens. Approximately 659 special interest aliens from Iran, approximately 6,386 special interest aliens from Afghanistan, approximately 538 special interest aliens from Syria, approximately 3,153 special interest aliens from Egypt, approximately 12,624 special interest aliens from Uzbekistan, approximately 30,830 special interest aliens from Turkey, approximately 1,613 special interest aliens from Pakistan, approximately 164 special interest aliens from Lebanon, approximately 184 special interest aliens from Jordan, approximately 123 special interest aliens from Iraq, and approximately 15,594 special interest aliens from Mauritania. In fiscal year 2021, Customs and Border Patrol seized approximately 11,200 pounds of fentanyl. In fiscal year 2022, CBP seized approximately 14,700 pounds of fentanyl. In fiscal year 2023, CBP has seized a record of approximately 27,000 pounds of fentanyl. Over 70,000 Americans died from fentanyl in fiscal year 2022. Fentanyl is now the #1 killer of Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. Fentanyl kills approximately 300 Americans every day. This is the amount of fentanyl that has been seized at the border. Yet, 300 Americans are still being killed by fentanyl poisoning every day. The amount of unseized fentanyl has not even been taken into account. The Constitution also requires the Secretary of Homeland Security to observe the Immigration and Nationality Act, 8 U.S.C. 1101. This law requires Homeland Security to detain inadmissible aliens arriving in the United States or illegal aliens presently in the United States. Instead, the Department of Homeland Security under Secretary Mayorkas has practiced catch and release policies whereby illegals are detained but then released without any mechanism to ensure they show up to court for processing. By terminating contracts for border wall construction, ending the migrant protection protocols, which is remain in Mexico, unlawfully granting categorical parole, and being complicit in ending Title 42, Mayorkas has made it easier for illegal people and drugs to enter the United States, endangering American citizens, and has made it harder for CBP to expel such threats. Alejandro Nicholas Mayorkas, in his inability to enforce the law, has engaged in a pattern of conduct that is incompatible with his duties as a civil officer of the United States. Alejandro Nicholas Mayorkas, in his failure to uphold the oath he took, has, by his actions, lost the trust of the citizens of the United States to faithfully execute the laws of the United States. Wherefore, Alejandro Nicholas Mayorkas thus warrants impeachment and trial, removal from office, and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. Mr. Speaker, I yield.
That we just had on the House floor, we had 8 Republicans vote with the Democrats to send my articles of impeachment back to committee, where articles of impeachment go to die. They just voted, these 8 Republicans just voted with the Democrats to protect Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas from impeachment, which is absolutely unbelievable. You see, we all know the facts, we know the numbers, and we know how bad the invasion is at the border every single day. I serve on the Homeland Committee, and we've done hearing after hearing after hearing as we have reported and talked to eyewitnesses, interviewed people. We have found out how bad it is at the border, and yet we can't get Republicans to impeach Secretary Mayorkas. This is outrageous. Let's talk about this. We have 4 of these Republicans serve on the Judiciary Committee. Now, the Judiciary Committee is where my articles of impeachment on Secretary Mayorkas have been sitting and collecting dust for months and months and months now without movement. And so there's 4 of these 8 that voted to send it back to the Judiciary Committee, where it will once again collect dust and have no movement to impeach Secretary Mayorkas. This is unbelievable because everyone all over America knows how bad this guy is and that he is willfully breaking our laws and allowing the invasion to happen. Over 300 Americans are dying every single day, and 2 of my constituents were killed last week by a human smuggler trafficking illegal aliens in Texas. This cannot continue. Several of these, as a matter of fact, 3 of the 8 Republicans are from the state of California that gets invaded every single day. Can you? How do they vote against impeachment of Secretary Mayorkas? I can't understand it. So that's Bentz, Buck. Well, let's talk about Kim Buck. Kim Buck is retiring. So we know why he voted no. He's just voting revenge votes against anybody he doesn't like. Apparently, he doesn't like his state of Colorado very much, and he doesn't like the people that sent him here to do his job. But he serves on judiciary, and he's retiring, so he doesn't care what happens to Mayorkas. He simply doesn't care about anything. Duarte from the state of California, he also voted against our border bill earlier this year. I guess Duarte from California not only doesn't want to impeach Secretary Mayorkas, he doesn't want to even secure the border whatsoever. So he must actually support Joe Biden and Secretary Mayorkas's open border. Virginia Fox, I can't understand why she did this. She's the chair of the Ed and Workforce Committee. I can't understand why she would vote to refer this back to committee when everyone knows how bad Mayorkas is. Daryl Issa from California, judiciary member. There you go. Send them back to committee where they can sit there and do nothing. Tom McClintock, another California Judiciary Committee member, voted with the Dems to protect Secretary Mayorkas. Patrick McHenry, chair of Financial Services, voted with the Democrats to protect Secretary Mayorkas and send my articles of impeachment back to the Judiciary Committee, where they will collect more dust, along with all the other articles of impeachment that are collecting dust over there. And then we've got Mike Turner from Ohio, chair of Intel. You would think the chairman of the Intel Committee knows really how bad the dangers are at the southern border. I would think he'd be one of the first ones to vote for impeachment of Secretary Mayorkas, but unfortunately, he voted with the Democrats to protect Secretary Mayorkas. I don't know how we ever win, guys, if we can't get Republicans to stick together and hold people accountable and impeach someone that needs to be impeached. You know, Mayorkas has expected this coming for so long now. He hired an attorney a long time ago. I guess he's wasted his money with his attorney because we can't even vote to move it to be debated on the House floor to hold a vote. So the final total tonight was 209 Democrats to 201 Republicans, and Republicans supposedly hold the majority here in Congress. That's something you wouldn't necessarily know because we sure don't act like it. We sure do enable Joe Biden. We enable Mayorkas. We enable an open border. We enable an illegal invasion that's murdering Americans every single day. But we can't even move for a vote to impeach Secretary Mayorkas. This should be very frustrating to many people. I know it's frustrating to me. It's frustrating to everyone I talk to. And this type of lack of will, lack of courage, lack of, I don't even know what, they're lacking a lot to actually hold Secretary Mayorkas accountable and impeach him is shameful. It's absolutely shameful. So if we're sending articles of impeachment back to the Judiciary Committee, my question is when is the Judiciary Committee going to pick them up and actually work them through committee? And if we have people serving on Judiciary Committee that don't believe in impeachment, then why are they on this committee? What is the point of them being there? Because Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas should be impeached, and that should have been done. That should have been done at the very beginning of our Congress because he started his job back in 2021, and we watched for 2 years, 2 whole years, while the Democrats had control. Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House. We watched Mayorkas for 2 years willfully allow an invasion in our southern border where 300 Americans are dying every single day. And now we finally have control in the House and we cannot move to impeach him. I think you guys know exactly what to do about this. And I'm sure you're just as upset as I am. And I'm sure you're just as outraged at why any Republican would vote with the Democrats to refer articles of impeachment back to committee where they go to die. They go to die and nothing happens to them. Please make sure that you call people and let them know. And I know you'll do that. Thanks so much, guys.
To refer this to the committee.
They're going to face their voters. The American people are fed up. We have an invasion at the southern border and Americans are dying every single day. But all we hear about is send money to Ukraine and send money to this. And people want Mayorkas impeached. They want accountability. And I cannot believe this. I'm outraged. My articles of impeachment on Mayorkas have been sitting for months in the Judiciary Committee. And many of the same Republicans that voted with Democrats to refer it back to committees sit on Judiciary Committee. So what are these Republicans even worth if they will not pick up articles of impeachment and actually move them through their committee and give it a chance on the House floor? So they stood with the Democrats to protect Secretary Mayorkas and prevent his impeachment by putting it back in the Judiciary Committee where they can put articles of impeachment up on the shelf to collect more dust.
Do they deserve to lose their races?
That's up to their constituents, but I can assure you that Republican voters will be extremely angry that they've done this.
What's your next move here? What's the next step?
I'm going to consider that. I may reintroduce them. Maybe I introduce them again privileged and give them the opportunity. Do they really want to do that? I'll give them some time to get phone calls in their office and talk to their constituents.
Congressman, on the CR, are you disappointed in Speaker Johnson's first decision here to advance this plan without spending cuts?
I think it's a failure. I'm not voting for a clean CR. I'm not carrying on Nancy Pelosi's budget. I'm not carrying on all the woke policies and the failures and the excessive spending that the Democrats set forth. I think we should be holding the line. We should finish our appropriations, and we should force the Senate to do their job and Joe Biden to sign these bills. And we can get this done if we get to work, but a clean CR is not the way to go.
Earlier today, Roy mentioned it. He wanted to see at least one policy win in that bill. Is there any one particular thing you would want to earn your support in a CR?
In which bill? A CR?
Yes, in a CR.
A clean CR, I don't really see many policy wins.
What one change would you make?
I wouldn't. I would say we're not doing a CR. We're doing our appropriation bills, and the Senate needs to do their job. That's what we should be doing.
What do you say the Republicans who pushed out Speaker McCarthy over a clean CR? Now Speaker Johnson is moving a clean CR.
You know, I've talked about that, and I think if you're going to oust a Speaker of the House from your conference, the red line should remain the same for the next Speaker. What's the point in throwing out one Speaker if nothing changes? And the only way to make sure that real changes happen is make the red line stay the same for every Speaker after that. And I don't think we're going to see that.
Would you plan to call for a motion to vacate?
I wasn't one of the 8, so I didn't do that.
Pam, can you just say, though, I mean, the Republicans are unable to pass their appropriations bills. We've seen this now multiple times, so there is a problem with that.
Today, Marjorie Taylor Greene and I, we came into Congress together. We've been friends for several years now. We both sit on the Homeland Security Committee, and we actually sit next together in that committee. And we've got to know each other. We've got to know each other very well. I actually hosted Marjorie in my district several months back. So not only has she been a leader on border security and holding this administration accountable for the failures, she's also seen it firsthand, has heard from people firsthand, and sadly, things are only getting worse. Nothing is changing, and we can't allow this to be the new norm. You know, last week, Marjorie's constituents, the Lermas, were killed. American citizens were killed along the border as they were traveling for vacation to see their family members. And this happens every single week. Just a few months ago, in Ozona, Texas, also in my district, the Tampungas, grandmother and her 7-year-old granddaughter, Emmy and Cope, were traveling back from a play date, and they were killed in a high-speed chase due to this border crisis. I mention that because when we talk about the numbers, when you talk about 240,000 people coming over illegally for the month of October, historic numbers, this is what that turns into. The lawlessness and the chaos turns into Americans dying, not to mention the fentanyl and everything else that's going on. And sadly, Washington and other places have become numb to the chaos. We are not numb to it. We're not ever going to be numb to it. And while it's unfortunate that Representative Taylor Greene's resolution didn't get over the finish line last night, we have to make sure that we never stop fighting to hold this administration accountable. It is incumbent on House Republicans. We are the last line of defense, and it can't just be words. There have to be meaningful solutions. Marjorie and I have worked very closely to get H.R. 2. This is the strongest border security package passed out of the House, and we're pushing hard to get the Senate to act and pass some meaningful border security solutions into law. This cannot happen. Every single week, you see these photos. These are innocent Americans that were just living their lives like any of us, are now gone, and they can never be replaced because of this border crisis. This starts here by fixing it here in Washington. I want to thank again my good friend Marjorie Taylor Greene for her leadership, for constant pushing on the issue and holding people accountable and never backing down. No matter win, lose, or draw, she's never going to back down. I'm honored to stand beside her today and continue to fight on border security until we get it done. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mark.
I'd like to thank you personally, Tony. It's an honor to work with you. And Tony has hosted me in his district. As a matter of fact, Tony has hosted most all of us in your district. Tony Gonzalez represents the district in Texas that has Eagle call that the front door to the invasion, the open door invasion that the Biden administration keeps going every single day, and Secretary Mayorkas leads it. He breaks our laws, the laws of our country, and allows our country to be invaded by terrorists, criminals, cartels, unknown people from over 160 countries across the world. This is what is happening to America, and these ordinary, regular Americans you see here on these posters are the victims of Secretary Mayorkas' willful breaking of our laws and keeping Biden's open border policies going. And our people have had enough, absolutely had enough. These are the numbers. We just got them out today. They've been reported. The numbers for October, 240,988 migrant encounters at the southern border during the month of October. Tony, I would bet many of them are in your district.
Yes.
And that makes this the highest October on record, the highest ever on record. CBP also reported 13 Border Patrol arrests of people on the FBI terror watch list in October. 12 at the southern border, likely quite a few of them in Tony's district, 1 at the northern border. But I would remind everyone, we have over 1.8 million gotaways on Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas' watch. This is his failure to Americans. How many of those 1.8 million gotaways are terrorists? I would argue thousands of them. But the problem is we don't know. Now here's what else is so devastating. 44,000 migrants were paroled into the U.S. at ports of entry through the Biden administration's use of the CBP One app. This is the way that migrants go on their smartphones as they're coming up through Mexico and just make an appointment to come into our country and be transported by buses, airplanes, and sent to hotel rooms all over the country on the taxpayer's dime. We are so fed up with this. How many more Americans have to die? How many more families will never see their loved ones again, like these people you see in these photos? Now here we are, 2 members of Congress that serve on the Homeland Committee, and as Tony stated, we sit next to each other. We have heard the heart-wrenching stories from witness after witness. Parents whose children have been murdered by Chinese fentanyl that comes into our country through the cartels at the southern border. We have watched them weep. We have mourned with them. 300 Americans die every single day. But think about this. 8 Republicans last night voted with Democrats to shelf and kill my articles of impeachment against Secretary Mayorkas. 8 Republicans. How many more people have to die before 8 Republicans can decide to have the courage to vote yes for impeachment against Alejandro Mayorkas? This cannot go on. I've lost 2 constituents last week. These people were just recently in the last month or so. But this happens every day at the border, and they are invisible. Congress is tone deaf. We don't need more hearings. We don't need more strongly worded letters. We don't need more posts and social media posts. We don't need any more of that. Americans are fed up with it. We need impeachment. And that is the tool that our founders gave us in the Constitution. I am particularly outraged at 4 of the 8 Republicans that voted to shelve these articles of impeachment, voted to kill them, because 4 of them serve on the Judiciary Committee. And I want you to know that my articles of impeachment have been in the Judiciary Committee for 6 months, sitting on a shelf. So these 4 Judiciary members, Republicans, voted to send them back up on the shelf where they will never be picked up and see the light of day, marked up in a committee and move forward. It's outrageous. And I have to say, one of them is Darrell Issa, and he said that I lack maturity. Well, I want you to know, it takes maturity to vote for impeachment. It takes seriousness to vote for impeachment, because we aren't going to stand by and watch our constituents get murdered by cartel members who are smuggling illegal aliens illegally into our country. It takes maturity to act, and we are ready to act. We are fed up with it. Now, here's the deal. Americans are fed up with it, and Congress has to stop being tone deaf.
Tony and I can quote the numbers to you on and on and on, but the biggest thing that we want is we want to see action from our conference. We want to see boldness and courage among Republicans to do the right thing for the American people so that no more Americans die from the Biden administration's open border policy that violates our laws and our Constitution. Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas must be impeached, and that's why I will reintroduce my articles of impeachment in a privilege resolution once again on the House floor, and I dare those 8 Republicans to shelf them again. It's time to do something about it. We must move forward. Tony, I thank you so much. I really thank your courage and how you represent your district and fight on this issue. So I want to keep working with you on this. Thank you. And we can take questions if anybody has them.
What's the next step for impeaching Mayorkas? When do you intend to refile those articles?
That would depend on our floor schedule. So I've got to see what our floor schedule is and what our votes are.
And those 8 members who voted against, they said they wanted to wait till the process and the investigation to complete itself in Homeland Security. What's your response to that?
I think that's a weak excuse. The process is a vote. That's how you impeach someone. We don't need to prove the numbers. We have the stories. They're proven right here. And they're proven every single day. 300 Americans die every single day. How many more Americans do they want dead before they're willing to push that button? I can assure you their phone lines are being lit up today. Their names are all over social media. Their constituents know how they voted. They should have never done it. They shouldn't have done it. And voting is our job. That's our job. And our record is public. And no one can get mad if people are upset about our votes, because you have to stand by your vote. But like I said, articles of impeachment, mine, and there's others on Mayorkas, have been sitting on the shelf in the Judiciary Committee. So they can't argue that they want to work the process when 4 of them serve on the Judiciary Committee and have not picked up articles of impeachment, moved them forward, and voted them out of their committee. That's an excuse that I'm not going to buy, and I don't think the American people are buying either.
I have a question for Congressman Gonzalez. So some of your primary challengers have come out and said you're now talking more openly about border security because of re-election issues. What's your response to that?
I've been in Congress Marjorie and I have been in Congress almost 3 years now. This is our 2nd term. My very first bill was a Security First Act, literally days after I was elected. And here we are 3 years later. Nothing has changed. It's only gotten worse. And what's happening is Americans are now being killed on a daily basis. So this is well beyond politics. This is well beyond a party. This is about our country. It's about how do we make this end. In my district, which is 800 miles of the southern border, stretches from San Antonio to El Paso, nearly half of the overall southern border. What you're seeing here, these Americans that are killed, it's happening every single week. I'll tell you about the Lerma family. I get a call from the sheriff of Zavala County about an hour after it occurred. He goes, Tony, there was another car accident. This time, 2 Americans were killed. And I go, okay, what happened? He walks me through it. They were coming from Georgia on their way to Mexico. And here we are trying to help that family bury their loved ones. This has to end. And this has to end with us. And once again, I give a lot of credit to Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene going, you know what, enough's enough. We're going forward. I'm not going to stop. We're not going to let up. We were really only four votes short of passing this thing. I mean, it was right there. And we cannot, House Republicans cannot be the party of do nothing. The American people are counting on us to make this crisis stop. Maybe we don't get it all. Maybe in 2023 we get a chunk, and then when we win back the presidency, we come back in 2025 and re-implement the Trump policies that worked. But I've been very clear. My record's been very clear. I've hosted over 100 members of Congress. I've done over 20 different congressional delegations. My positions have not changed from day one.
Thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate it.
Great. Thank you.
We are so fed up with this. How many more Americans have to die? How many more families will never see their loved ones again, like these people you see in these photos? Now, here we are, 2 members of Congress that serve on the Homeland Committee, and as Tony stated, we sit next to each other. We have heard the heart-wrenching stories from witness after witness. Parents whose children have been murdered by Chinese fentanyl that comes into our country through the cartels at the southern border. We have watched them weep. We have mourned with them. 300 Americans die every single day. But think about this. 8 Republicans last night voted with Democrats to shelf and kill my articles of impeachment against Secretary Mayorkas. 8 Republicans. How many more people have to die before 8 Republicans can decide to have the courage to vote yes for impeachment against Alejandro Mayorkas? This cannot go on. I've lost 2 constituents last week. These people were just recently in the last month or so. But this happens every day at the border, and they are invisible. Congress is tone deaf. We don't need more hearings. We don't need more strongly worded letters. We don't need more posts and social media posts. We don't need any more of that. Americans are fed up with it. We need impeachment. And that is the tool that our founders gave us in the Constitution. I am particularly outraged at 4 of the 8 Republicans that voted to shelve these articles of impeachment, voted to kill them, because 4 of them serve on the Judiciary Committee. And I want you to know that my articles of impeachment have been in the Judiciary Committee for 6 months, sitting on a shelf. So these 4 Judiciary members, Republicans, voted to send them back up on the shelf where they will never be picked up and see the light of day, marked up in a committee and move forward. It's outrageous. And I have to say, one of them is Darrell Issa, and he said that I lack maturity. Well, I want you to know, it takes maturity to vote for impeachment. It takes seriousness to vote for impeachment, because we aren't going to stand by and watch our constituents get murdered by cartel members who are smuggling illegal aliens illegally into our country. It takes maturity to act, and we are ready to act. We are fed up with it. Now, here's the deal. Americans are fed up with it, and Congress has to stop being tone deaf. Tony and I could quote the numbers to you on and on and on, but the biggest thing that we want is we want to see action from our conference. We want to see boldness and courage among Republicans to do the right thing for the American people, so that no more Americans die from the Biden administration's open border policy that violates our laws and our Constitution. Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas must be impeached, and that's why I will reintroduce my articles of impeachment in a privilege resolution once again on the House floor, and I dare those 8 Republicans to shelf them again. It's time to do something about it. We must move forward. Tony, I thank you so much. I really thank your courage and how you represent your district and fight on this issue. So I want to keep working with you on this. Thank you, and we can take questions if anybody has them.
What's the next step for impeaching Mayorkas? When do you intend to refile those articles?
That would depend on our floor schedule. So I've got to see what our floor schedule is and what our votes are.
And those 8 members who voted against, they said they wanted to wait till the process and the investigation to complete itself in Homeland Security. What's your response to that?
I think that's a weak excuse. The process is a vote. That's how you impeach someone. We don't need to prove the numbers. We have the stories. They're proven right here, and they're proven every single day. 300 Americans die every single day. How many more Americans do they want dead before they're willing to push that button? I can assure you, their phone lines are being lit up today. Their names are all over social media. Their constituents know how they voted, and they should have never done it. They shouldn't have done it. And voting is our job. That's our job, and our record is public. And no one can get mad if people are upset about our votes, because you have to stand by your vote. But like I said, articles of impeachment, mine, and there's others on Mayorkas, have been sitting on the shelf in the Judiciary Committee. So they can't argue that they want to work the process when 4 of them serve on the Judiciary Committee and have not picked up articles of impeachment, moved them forward, and voted them out of their committee. That's an excuse that I'm not going to buy, and I don't think the American people are buying either.
Thank you, sir. The gentleman yields. I now recognize the gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. Greene, for 5 minutes of questioning.
Secretary Mayorkas, I want you to look at these innocent Americans. Do you see them?
I do, Congresswoman.
They are dead. They're from Dalton, Georgia, in my district. They're dead because a 17-year-old, likely affiliated with the cartels, was smuggling illegal aliens into our country in Texas, breaking our laws, and this happens every single day in our country. Earlier this week, 8 Republicans joined the Democrats and protected your job. But I want you to know, you have a short time coming. You can honorably resign, or we are going to impeach you, and it's happening very, very soon. Mr. Ray, do you remember on October 18th when the Capitol...
Purpose gentlewoman from Georgia seek recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Clause 2A1 of Rule 9, I seek recognition...
The gentlewoman is recognized.
To give notice of my intent to raise a question of the privileges of the House. The form of the resolution is as follows. Resolution, impeaching Alejandro Nicolas Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security, for high crimes and misdemeanors. Resolved that Alejandro Nicolas Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security, is impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors, and that the following articles of impeachment be exhibited to the United States Senate. Articles of impeachment exhibited by the House of Representatives of the United States of America in the name of itself and of the people of the United States of America against Alejandro Nicolas Mayorkas, Secretary of Homeland Security, in maintenance and support of impeachment against him for high crimes and misdemeanors. Article 1. Rather than adhering to an oath he took to defend and secure our country and uphold the Constitution when he was sworn in as Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Nicolas Mayorkas has engaged in a pattern of conduct that is incompatible with the laws of the United States as follows. Article 2 of the Constitution requires that the executive branch, which today includes the Secretary of Homeland Security, ensure the laws passed by Congress and signed into law by the President are faithfully executed. The Secure Fence Act of 2006, Public Law 109 through 367, requires that the Secretary of Homeland Security maintain operational control over the entire international land and maritime borders of the United States. In his willful admittance of border crossers, terrorists, human traffickers, drugs, and other contraband, Alejandro Nicolas Mayorkas has failed to maintain operational control of the border, thereby violating the Secure Fence Act of 2006. The guarantee clause set forth in Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution dictates, the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislature or of the executive when the legislature cannot be convened against domestic violence. The guarantee clause clearly dictates that the federal government has a constitutional duty and obligation to protect each of the states from invasion. As Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas has violated his oath to uphold this constitutional duty by allowing the invasion of approximately 10 million illegals across our borders. The ongoing invasion at our southern border is a direct national security threat against the states and against the citizens therein. Secretary Mayorkas has willfully abandoned his duty to secure the border and protect states against invasion, thereby violating Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. To wit, since Mayorkas has headed the Department of Homeland Security, there have been approximately 10 million illegal border crossers who have invaded our country at our border. This is broken down between 8 million encounters and approximately 1,800,000 known gotaways who have evaded United States authorities and are roaming the interior of the United States. At least 280 people on terrorist watch list caught while attempting to cross the border between ports of entry. Approximately 400,000 unaccompanied illegal alien children encountered at the southern border, with at least 85,000 of these children having gone missing. At least 1,424 deaths of illegals at the southern border. Approximately 73,000 special interest aliens arrested at our border, which are aliens from a nation that promotes terrorist activity, harbors terrorists, or poses a security threat to the United States. This is the number arrested at the border, not counting, however, many of the 1,800,000 known gotaways are special interest aliens. Approximately 659 special interest aliens from Iran. Approximately 6,386 special interest aliens from Afghanistan. Approximately 538 special interest aliens from Syria. Approximately 3,153 special interest aliens from Egypt. Approximately 12,624 special interest aliens from Uzbekistan. Approximately 30,830 special interest aliens from Turkey. Approximately 1,613 special interest aliens from Pakistan. Approximately 164 special interest aliens from Lebanon. Approximately 185 special interest aliens from Jordan. Approximately 123 special interest aliens from Iraq, and approximately 15,594 special interest aliens from Mauritania. In fiscal year 2021, Custom and Border Patrol seized approximately 11,200 pounds of fentanyl. In fiscal year 2022, CBP seized approximately 14,700 pounds of fentanyl. In fiscal year 2023, CBP has seized a record of approximately 27,000 pounds of fentanyl. Over 70,000 Americans died from fentanyl in fiscal year 2022. Fentanyl is now the #1 killer of Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. Fentanyl kills approximately 300 Americans a day. This is the amount of fentanyl that has been seized at the border, yet 300 Americans are being killed by fentanyl poisoning every day. The amount of unseized fentanyl has not even been taken into account. The Constitution also requires the Secretary of Homeland Security to observe the Immigration and Nationality Act, 8 U.S.C. 1101. This law requires Homeland Security to detain inadmissible aliens arriving in the United States or illegal aliens presently in the United States. Instead, the Department of Homeland Security under Secretary Mayorkas has practiced catch and release policies whereby illegals are detained but then released without any mechanism to ensure they show up to court for processing. By terminating contracts for border wall construction, ending the migrant protection protocols, which is remain in Mexico, unlawfully granting categorical parole, and being complicit in ending Title 42, Mayorkas has made it easier for illegal aliens and drugs to enter the United States, endangering American citizens, and has made it harder for CBP to expel such threats. Alejandro Mayorkas, in his inability to enforce the law, has engaged in a pattern of conduct that is incompatible with his duties as a civil officer of the United States. Alejandro Mayorkas, in his failure to uphold the oath he took, has, by his actions, lost the trust of the citizens of the United States to faithfully execute the laws of the United States. Wherefore, Alejandro Mayorkas thus warrants impeachment and trial, removal from office, and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank Mr. Biggs from Arizona for introducing these articles of impeachment. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Fallon from Texas for introducing articles of impeachment. Impeachment is very serious, and it's a tool that we have to hold office holders accountable for high crimes and misdemeanors. And as Mr. Biggs laid out, Secretary Mayorkas has lost the trust and confidence of the people of the United States of America. Our border is overrun. We are invaded every single day. But let's talk about fentanyl for a minute. Fentanyl is a dangerous poison that is coming from China into Mexico, and the Mexican cartels are smuggling it and selling it across our border. And just as one of my colleagues pointed out a few minutes ago, they are making billions by doing this, and it is such a shame. We have to impeach Secretary Mayorkas for his failure to the American people, not only by not stopping and securing our border, stopping over 5 million people from coming in, but this dangerous poison that's killing over 300 Americans every single day. Just this week, there were 3 people that overdosed and were poisoned by fentanyl in a county, Walker County in my district. And then the night before, there were 3 others that were poisoned in a neighboring county. Luckily, they survived because of Narcan and because police and fire could get there quickly and save their lives. Fentanyl kills anyone it touches. It is so dangerous. It doesn't care about Republican or Democrat. It doesn't care what color your skin is. It doesn't care about your identity one single bit, but it will kill you. And because of this failure and this dangerous, it's an epidemic in our country, fentanyl is, and we have to do something about it. And it's Secretary Mayorkas' responsibility to stop it from coming in our country. But I'll go a step further. It's also President Biden's responsibility. I've called for his impeachment because of his failure to protect our country as well, and I'll continue to call to impeach President Biden for that reason as well. But I'm honored to stand here with my colleagues today, calling out Secretary Mayorkas and letting him know we are going to impeach you, so you should resign now. Thank you very much. And with that, I turn it over to my colleague. Let's see, where are we at? Congressman Troy Nehls.